Chodan Soti Chonamba, Janchu Padu, Dani Jamsuchi, Dagi Chunin Jipe Sonangi, Droga Penchi Sange Drupasho. Chodan Soti Chonamba, Janchu Padu, Dani Jamsuchi, Dagi Chunin Jipe Sonangi, Droga Penchi Sange Drupasho. Chodam Soji Chonamba, Janchu Bardu Dagni Kyamsuchi, Dagi Chonin Jipe Sonamgi, Droga Penchu Sange Drupasho.
Very good evening. You're very comfortable. You want to strike the leg, no, whatever you want. Yeah, that is also. And I guess I saw them on the day. I'm not sure.
And so again, we're going to have a discussion on how to practice Buddhism in relation to this teaching given in these 37 practices of Bodhisattvas. And this text explains all the essential points of the enlightenment, the gradual path to enlightenment, starting from guru devotion all the way to achieve to the full enlightenment. As you all know, that at all the times when we do practices, it is important to set up a proper motivation, a virtuous motivation at the beginning. And so even if you are not able to carry out the practice just as you have motivated, but still it is very important to set up a proper motivation at the beginning. And set up a sort of a motivation that you should have is by thinking, just as myself, all sentient beings are equal and not wanting any sufferings and wanting only happiness. And so just as I want to achieve everlasting happiness, sentient beings are all same in wanting to achieve everlasting happiness. In order to achieve that, I must achieve state of full enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And also you can think that in order to lead all sentient beings to the state of that enlightenment, I'm going to engage in this practice of virtuous action. So if you achieve the state of full enlightenment, then you have achieved the state of everlasting happiness.
아니 소소가 다 진행 시도고 요래서
So not only oneself have achieved the state of everlasting happiness, but also one will be able to show others the path to enlightenment according to their dispositions, capability, and so forth.
이 바이자 지금 된대가 된다. 다 이렇게 수치모지 소토에 와인다. 아니 만도 산지 거봐서 다 도고에 말이에요.
Because you are able to perform such a great task to achieving enlightenment, therefore you should strive to achieve enlightenment.
단단 가라서 다 지금 심지 찐이라는 저 펜토도 없는데 와서.
So right now we are not able to benefit even one or two sentient beings, right?
소소 거 때마다 저 인도 되어버렸다. 심지 시야라 펜토도 다 나도 발이 빵개로 와서.
So let alone others, we are not able to even achieve everlasting happiness for ourselves alone. And so doing something to lead others to that state is, is not quite possible, right?
소소물에 니바야 요말나 아니 심지 파초월다 삼바도 무바 탐바지다 나도 지다 다 이제 소토문데 와서.
And so we don't have that power to ourselves, and also we are not able to teach exactly how it is be most beneficial for others.
옛날에 다 지금 먼저 소소치 개와 냠년다고 지금 가디 제와이나야 지금 다 강한 제와대 아니 심지어 탐조 산지 고마 통역이 진짜로 쇼라고 사비 그놈이 커와이나 다 탐조 강한데 지금 개와 친구 강한 아니 다 야보인 거랬어.
And so, if you think, whatever virtuous actions I'm engaging in, may that become a cause to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, then that becomes the motivation of the great scope.
And scope's coming little trouble. Maybe we don't talk too much. Otherwise, everybody a little nervous. Everybody thought, they think, oh, I understand very well. The scopes, vehicles come, they say, what's going on? But today, by such a today, I start Namju Sosochi Kandidoji Kadi Manachi, Kadi Chesa Samara, Kama Cheja Wataya, the Gesara Mores, Gesara Mamoina, Tiparach Kuroda Sawana, and Gesa Chumbo.
And after having accumulated merit or created the virtuous action, then you have to dedicate that virtuous action for the state of full enlightenment, to achieve the state of full enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So if you don't dedicate that virtue that you have accumulated, and before dedicating it in between, if you become angry, then that anger will destroy the virtue.
Well, yes, anger can very easily. Just a moment. Therefore, very important to, when you done, you practice, put the saving account. Okay? Today, but the Gewa Chechunchi, Yeritoyo Martero, so that you come and check me. And it Kadi Chewa, Kan Chewate, and they can't get some more reservoir.
So, it doesn't matter how long you have done the practice, or how much you have done the practice, whatever amount of practice you have done, or virtuous action that you have accumulated, you should dedicate that.
And it's Namju, Peja Lodi Samarachi. Talamuzo, Chichota, them more loyal. That children of lower in that chi. Tendal, some of the tower, she not tendal so hard coat penby. Tendal the chick touch. Gopado, Gentendo, Chin, Dugan, or some of them.
And so as you read scriptures or text, Dharma textbooks, you should also try to contemplate on the meaning, what it's explaining, whether it makes sense or not, whether it has any reason, proper reason or not. You should think about that.
Benachi, Gyawang Ngapshi says, Chiwa Mataba says, Legend says, Tandukorma, that Demnos, Cheshiosma, Tandukol Samuta Carpent, Courage the Lakundu, Tandukol Samotama.
And so when it explains about karmic law of cause and effect, death and impermanence, and so forth, then you have to think, why, what are they trying to tell? What is the benefit of knowing that, and so forth. So you should think that. So the regular textbooks, that you study in the college or school, that as long as you know about it, then that's good enough. But for the Dharma, it is not like that. It is not just good enough just to know it. Whatever you have come to know, then you should put that into practice.
Right.
And also when it explains about the benefits of the virtue, and disadvantages of the non-virtue, then you should contemplate on those meanings.
Everybody like to check, right? Everybody. You guys grow up scientists. Checking, Therefore, very important to check whatever we study, whatever we know about Buddhism. Tenri by the chick, or Tenri can't lose your chair, the son of Tangila, and it's so sent down. Pejana Sheshavatani, Tan Tungu to do some power, as well. Suzu sent down, Pejana come, Tama, Sonshavatani, Tungu to do power, as well.
And as you read the text book, you should check, whether your mind accords with that information in the Dharma text or not.
If the Dharma text talking about virtuous things, you check your mind go with how much balance in there. If the Dharma text talking about non-virtuous, you check how much balance you might go with non-virtuous. This is very important. We can, thinking, check. And this is not just develop something. That's congregation. Or that they give away. That they choy away. They mature away. That not to congregate. How go you
when you read the textbook, you know what is allowed and what is not allowed.
이나야. 또 수주 샘다. 딱 빼잖아. 라반나지 파지. 통일 두드는 듯이. 따다 레긴 두드 대상 땅을 해서.
But you have to check, are you doing what you are allowed? Are you, preventing, doing those things, what you are not allowed?
얘나 쇼쳤다. 딱 저라서는 다 싫어하고 야보래서 와. 지세 야라요세. 갈래 다 잡고 그래. 수술 약간 로고 그래. 수술 남을 다 옛날에 저 뒤순들이 지금 다 전에 서로 가려져야 돼. 저 야보래서 옛날 야보라 가서 다요 말했어요. 사마지 받아.
So generally, you guys are very good. Rejoice in your hard work. You have to go to work, and you make all this time to come and do the practice and so forth. So that's very good, but there's no limit to the goodness. You can, the goodness can increase until you achieve state of full enlightenment.
그냥 만종가마다 로종식을 깔아야 자살이 될 거다. 삼삼 다 가디는 말이야. 약간 아니 저거서 신가 닦아로 그래. 신갈랭아로 그래서. 다 님의 그 신갈랭가 내가 치는 건다 치라 소리다 맞아. 뚝딱아 쳐그래서. 다 깔래가네. 다 로지 맞아로.
So in the monastery, we used to go to work in the farm during the monsoon, summertime or monsoon time. We have to go to work in the farm in the field, and then afterwards, when you come back into the monastery, working whole day in the field, and then when you have to go to the debate session in the evening, then we used to feel very bored or tired because we're very tired, so we don't want to go.
But we don't have choice. What? no what that that dream that door.
And so it is the rule of the monastery that you have to attend the debate session.
If you doesn't go there and you name some mark, then you have to go some maybe 2-3 days to kitchen to walk.
The merits.
But then is that you that then do I pay Kali in a taco, Mado and Roy, then also Takari. Madison called dead away. I do the Maran on the so that's some time to do Kali. That's why I put it through.
And so, after walking all day in the field, you still have to go and attend the debate session in the evening. So it's we don't like to go, but we still have to go because it's the rule of the monastery. But in your case, it's not like that. Even though you walk all day, very tired, but still, you make effort voluntarily. You make effort to come to the teachings in the evenings. So that's very, very good.
어떤 데 임바다 따지 간신에 수수 끊어 야부지 거여봐야 나야 예 거여봐야 나는 다선 그나 다 간니마 데리러 와나 비나 다 도망가 지금 다 뭔가를 보고 연 사비지 끊어로 가디께와 째네 다 아니 도파 말에 봐라 강치와 다 교환 로이를 끊어 야부지는.
So if we had set up a proper motivation, then the intention from the time that you had the intention to come to the temple, and then during the whole time that you were here, and until you go back to your place, the whole time becomes a virtuous action.
어떤데 이바다 딱 끊어서 돼. 딱 나도 쇼치잖아. 개치 무시라. 딱 갖고 이래. 끊어서 그대나 주고 그래서.
And so the motivation, setting up a right motivation is very important, and you should always set up a proper right motivation.
어떤데 이바다 딱 로조 채워라 때니 딱 말아서 gelati 자시나 등 공통 맞아서 딱 로마를 방문 보이래. 딱 들도 가라 쳇때 들로 그래서 봐. 치료는 딱 때서 맞춰. 로고도 딱 그래서.
And so by creating virtuous action like this, then you should pour some water on those delusions in your mind, like attachment, anger, ignorance, and so forth. So pouring water here means like trying to reduce that as much as possible.
Right. We can put a little water. Maybe one day they make some grass. Maybe they put beer. What's the beer? Beer. Oh yeah. 어떤데 이바도 지금 강제도 나까든가 개신이도 그렇습니다. 아니 녀모 저거든나 아니 주의스 녀모 저거 뭐든나 다 가르면 가르치나 주면서 그래서.
So the Kadamba masters used to say that whatever you do, if that becomes antidote to the delusions, then that is Dharma practice. If it doesn't become an antidote to the delusions, then it is not Dharma practice, no matter what you do.
Even you 3 years retreat, they're not antidote, they're non-virtues, they're not Dharma. If you can learn some merit, but it's not. So
according to the Kadamba masters, then that is not Dharma practice.
If you 3 years retreat, then maybe you create some.
So you might create some merits.
어떤데 이봐야 지금 고속 강한 제와 지금 다 녀모가 녀모 다 녹음도 따로 개체 보시라 해서
And so checking whether it becomes an antidote to the delusions or not is very important.
But I said just you guys, but for me, no one entered any what's that, non-virtuous. Maybe they more grow. 삼성마도 삼성마치네. 야한테 용거리서 watch. 야 지금 로조로 어떻지 어디로 지나 나도 맞았지 그래서 봐. 됐잖아. 아니 다 녀모도 그다 녀모가 약해와 내가 왔어.
Something that happens, and instead of becoming an antidote to the delusions, and it becomes an aid to the delusions. Like sometimes when you are studying a lot, when you're doing practice, then you might become arrogant. You think, oh, I'm doing this practice, that practice, and so forth. You might develop that pride. And then that practice became aid to the delusions, not an antidote to the delusions.
Also, who has more education, maybe they have more pride. Not just pride. Then pride doesn't vow. Bow, no one's.
Don't bow.
Bow, yeah. Bow means, this bow means not necessarily need to posture them, Then we don't listen, no one is saying, oh, I know, this is better. That doesn't know, he doesn't know, she doesn't know. Very strong ego. Ego's really here. Therefore, something very important, who has more knowledge, who know more things than checking, is very important, or not. Okay? Wada tene dawa yin bari, tashi, tan do tene tene, da nga do tene ma, kasa to tene ma, tan do yes wa.
So it's like that, that's how it is. And now we're going to go through the text of what we started from last time.
Sholoka, tsanga de yes wa.
So it's verse number 25, page 15.
아니 내가 다 가서 방송 가서 이것은 좀 사실 좀 샤이 봤어. 삽체로 좀.
So this we had the three main outlines, right, when we first started.
샹초 샘치 위저다. 샘치니 다 샘치 라우자 다 된다 샘치 라우자 되는 거. Judge. Judge. And the chance of saying, that we just walk with colors. And the pay chance of saying, love just.
So the three main outlines are the cause for generating bodhicitta, generating actual bodhicitta, and the precepts or advices after having generated bodhicitta.
And the chance of saying, love just.
So these are the precepts or the practice of bodhicitta.
And the Rajam Measure Pajituda, Jajam Measure, and the Devil was yours.
So it is explained in the Lamlims, there are these six perfections. Among the six perfections, which are the cause for ripening one's own mind, one's own continuum. And the four means of attracting the disciples for ripening the mind stream of others.
What in the Bazata? What a pasture in Yamle data, now so that generation. That Yamle have compared. That by that Tashi Yasho that day,
So there's 10 perfections. The six for self, four for others. So these, the practice of these 10 perfections is the best means for ripening one's and others' minds.
And then the way she said it, Jen, that Jim Pashes, that catch, Chushoko, that
So four means of attracting the disciples, is the best kind of tool for helping others to engage in Dhamma practice.
Rajamaji Pajitu, and Jimbe, that Tamoto, that Jimbe Yamlet, Zova, something, Shirajin Yamlet.
And so the first six perfections are the perfection of generosity, morality, the effort, patience, concentration, and wisdom.
And then the two chig Ninju somebody na, and that is my passion. Don't to be Sharaga somebody na, and that Jimbe passion, that Jimba, that passion, that passion, and 그이나 가네다. 지금 파진다 지만이는 쳐봐요스. 다 가지만 지진다. 샹지고 생거 선바이나 아니. 지금 파진다 이러고서 샹지고 생거 선바이나. 지금 파진다. 샹지고 생거 맞아바이나 아니 지금 냠내세 파진다 이러고서.
So, if the practice of generosity, is conjoined with renunciation or maybe emptiness, then it becomes the practice, the profession of generosity, or maybe not emptiness, maybe the bodhicitta. If it is conjoined with the practice of bodhicitta, then it becomes practice of the profession of generosity. If it is not, then it just becomes a practice of generosity.
아니 바제 돈이 도배 싫어 돈인가 도배 싫어져서 나니 지때는 데베 있다 지금 바제다 저렇게 살았어.
If it is conjoined with the wisdom realizing emptiness directly, then I think it becomes the perfection of the practice of generosity that is beyond the mundane word or supramundane, the practice of generosity.
아니 깨워서 뭐 강하게 다 남냠내서 근 되게 선에 다 지마로 다나 다 집에 냠내서 들음소나 들음이 냠내서 저와가도 집에 냠내서 바제다 이러고 살아오스.
And so, conjoined with any of the path of the three scopes, if you engage in the practice of generosity, then it becomes practice of generosity. If you engage in the practice of morality, then it becomes practice of morality.
그래다 관심하지 다 집에 냠내다 집에 파시도 다 쳐봐 요요스러워.
So, I think there is a difference in the practice of generosity and the practice of the profession of generosity.
리자 간제 다가 자대를 라야메 간제 상주의 샘지 선배 아니 파신조 단데 지마도 두고 가기 냠내라 아니 다 반에 이제 파신다고 봐야 좋으래서 대마승도 솔라 아니 다 집에도 좀도 냠내세 파신들로 다자 좋으래서.
I'm not 100% sure. I think when it is conjoined with the bodhicitta, when that practice of generosity is conjoined with the bodhicitta, then it becomes the perfection of generosity. And when it's conjoined with when the practice of morality conjoined with the bodhicitta, then it becomes the practice of the perfection of morality. I think that's how it is, but I'm not 100% sure.
I'm not sure. You guys read some books. I forget. I studied this maybe. We beginning mudoje na kaptangu kabla so
when we studied the ornament of cloud realization, the first chapter of the ornament of cloud realization, it explains about this, but I've forgotten already.
I'm very similar to yaki. What's it? Yaki Yeti fun to mouse. You guys know that Yeti. He found one mouse, it's big. He found one mouse put here, and he tried other one. He lose one other. Therefore, we study, we forget. We study, forget. What today by the what is it? Today the Tandelaya. Ta Chimbenyam. Ta Pajitan de la Pajita. Cardana Jimbada Chumzo to Jita, Pagina Pajaro with Rova. Jimbe Pashi in Yamlet, Strange Pashi in Yamlet, Sevi Pashi in Yamlet, Tatul Patruja, Retrova.
So these are the practice of the profession of generosity. And then there's also explained in the next verse about the practice of the profession of morality and so forth. So read that verse first.
26.
25.
When those who want enlightenment must give even their body, there's no need to mention external things. Therefore, without hope for return or any fruition, give generously. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas.
If somebody asks you, can you give your finger? Can you give? Someone said, can I have your finger?
And so now you have to understand what is generosity.
And
the practice of generosity and the thing that you give, the material thing, that you give and giving are different.
그래서 짐바세티 리 노쇼 게다다 제바 젤라 동도지 삼바달라 아니 짐바세래서
So generosity is the intention, the mental state, the intention of wanting to give one's own body, the possession, the virtue of the 3 times, and so forth to others. So that intention to give is the generosity.
Okay. Therefore, if you have practice generosity, but you don't need to give your possessions.
So there is a profit there, right? You don't have to give anything yet, it becomes practice of generosity.
But if you want, that
but if someone were to come and ask you for any of those things, like your body, your possession, and the merit that you have accumulated over 3 times, if anybody comes to ask, then you should be very ready to give it.
But if anybody not coming, if you can think of motivation, this is the practice to or more. What's that?
So, but if nobody comes to ask you, then just having that thought of wanting to give away is the practice of generosity. So now you understand generosity, right? Generosity is the mind wanting to give. So if, well, there are many different types of generosity. So anyway, the material that you give to others, the material that is just the thing that you give to others, that's the material of the practice of generosity.
Okay.
So some say there are 4 different types of generosity, some say there are 3 types of generosity.
Everybody know? What are they? Can I have any volunteers?
4 or 3, I do not. I know I do not.
Any either one?
Sorry, I don't.
아니 상식이 좀 봐서와 즉 상식이 좀 봐라도 너도 다 잘라 받쳐야 되려고 그랬어.
And so the first one is giving of material things.
아니 주지 좀 봐서 다 주지 좀 받아다 소소 강하고 그러지. 나도 저거 봐서 지금 주 거다 좀 강하려고 그랬어.
And the second one is the giving of the Dharma teachings.
아니 무지 받잡지 좀 받나 지금 다 semchen checho chik tomaji cheke che so jabadena mi jiba jabi base.
And then the giving of refuge, so protecting from the fears and sufferings.
대 남지 다시 만나 뭐 섬자 대섬자 그래. 그래서
So those are the 3 types of the generosity when we talk about 3 types of generosity.
아니 다 시샤와는 티가라 샴베신 바데 달라 그래서 샴베기 좀.
And then if you make it 4, then there's the 4th one is on top of those 3. Then there's the giving of love.
Okay, now you better know.
Okay.
Don't forget. Ask next time again.
Okay, so the giving of refuge, is that only giving refuge vows, or is it just offering protection from fear?
말한테 다 속죠. 심지 가래 좀 가래가 속죠 같은 거.
Saving their lives.
So it's conventional refuge, worldly refuge.
그냥 쉬어도 되려고 말. 가지면 이제 스스로 sem지는 속 잡아 되려고 그랬어.
So yeah, if you want to say it that way, you can say it. Anyway, it means doing something to protect others' lives.
맨날 다만 주지. 좀봐 좀강이 지금 잡아야 되고. 다 샘진 샤라디 뒤잡아요. 아니 지금 뭐라고 들이 죽는 뜻이 있다가 좀 들려요.
So, for example, protecting the prisoner from the prison, or animals, the deers and so forth, from the snare, or like if there's an ant that has fallen into water, you pick it out from the water. So that's called protection, the refuge, the generosity of refuge.
어떻지? 근데 다 상승이 좀 봤어야 되나? 아니 다 제주가요 말해서 봐 가지마지 소주 세나 맵에 통네 아니 제주 가래 직접 봐이나 아니 다대 유진매냐는 거 그래서 봐.
And the giving of material things, giving material things, actually giving the material things, irrespective of the size of the material thing that you give. Anything that you give, the material things that you give, is called the generosity of material things.
어떻게 된리그 준비가 딱 준비도 삼바데 장적의 생각 삼바이나 아니 다디 그래 준비 파신 냠내에서 다팅가 가지고 통수도 빼자도 준비 파신 냠내에서 납샤스로 장적 생각 삼바이나.
So that if that practice is conjoined with the bodhicitta, then that practice is the practice of perfection of generosity. I think I've seen it somewhere in some text explaining that.
근데 나 다들 하는 조합이나 다 놓고 그래서 와 지금 제주랑을 가리지 앞에 와놨다 소좀 조한다고 그래서
And so whatever you offer to the Buddhas, your deities, and that becomes offering.
Maybe you have just one candle. 어때지? 양아지 어때? 양아지 이젠바지 똥 초사만 쇼다 사도 대한테 남는 도서한테 사고 그래서 와 당아도 다 지난 때는 이거 이거 말았어.
And so, when you do the practice of generosity, when you're giving things, so you have to know what are the things that you can give and what are the things you cannot give, to whom you can give and to whom you cannot give. You have to know that.
단대 거는 변하다. 조사하고 그 도박하고 변한 나도나 다 지금 저런 걸 주보 자식 들으시는다 맞죠? 다 말해서.
And so, for example, depending on the level of your realization or practice, and I can't speak for others, but for myself, like if someone were to come and ask me for my body, then I'm not really at that level, at that stage or level to be able to give, so I should not give.
지야데 어떤데 대좀 양아직 소수 강트려야 돼. 아니 지금 다 간지 손잡는 거 독주는 거 내가 대좀 맞. 내가 납시하더라고.
And also, you should not give things like that can cause harm to others' life, like the weapons or poisons and so forth.
어떤데 다 제요 말씀들 배상들 납두더라고.
So it's said in the text, you should not give those things.
But we don't give. No one asks us to give water, right? Nobody. 어디지? 어떤데 이봐야 다 준비 냠내 소시와나 소주 칼라 사와대요. 이봐 냠내 바자 쪽으로 들어와.
So if you know how to apply that practice, then even eating food can be applied as practice of generosity.
들어와. 배는 알아서 수분을 해야 다 먹고 쉬우게 잘 들어와. 그래서 다 모두 돌아지. 다 갈라트기 요소미지 그놈으로 오지. 다 갈라지는 그놈으로 오지. 근데 사와 있나? 그래서 뭐라고 해서
So in our body, we have a lot of germs and bacteria and all these sentient beings. So if we think, when we eat, if we think that I'm eating to feed them, then that becomes the practice of generosity also.
아니 배는 나랑 소포 야보차야도 샤 야보차야 되게 제대 다 되게 사와 있나요? 다 갈아대 양식 다 먹이고 되게 다 사요. 머리에서는 뭐 벌도 송해서 와.
And so if you think, I'm going to eat this food so that I can become strong, I can, have a strong body and so forth, then that becomes non-virtuous action. So you should not eat it with that kind of intention. So Nagarjuna has said that in his text.
Everybody know that. What's that? Letter to friend. Letter to friend. We are not eating for getting fat.
Be a muscle man or
Yeah, we don't eat for to getting fat. Everybody very fat to fat. Oh, I don't want this thing by fat. But the other country, Suzu Kalasawata, Suzujilla, Tambutuji, Tajimba, Tanzola, Pembe, Chedici, Sagi, take some savannah, and the Kalasawata,
so if you think that I'm eating, give this food to those sentient beings in my body, then that can become practice of generosity.
Sometimes there is practice, but it's very easy. Just be thinking. We don't want to do other things. Just good meditation. Whatever we do, they say this is become virtuous. It is very easy, right? But you have to think very deeply, not just cover, just a little bit here. You have to think in here, not out of here. But today is what does something is about? I think young children will provide a chief. Children said the young chief, Yapochi. Tambo Mapping never a chief. That's something to your general show. That's something like Pember show them at the Kono Kane. Then the pizza is some young pea, Pajamba pizza, some young chief. Tell me, training curses of someone. That trade chess on someone. That dress up no chance, some of your race, Tambo and chief. Some of your Tama.
And also when you're making offerings to the Buddhas, then you should set up proper motivation, thinking that I'm going to make this offering in order to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of the sentient beings, or for it to become a cause to achieve enlightenment, or for it to benefit others. And then once once you have made offering, you should not have a regret for having made the offering, or thinking that that was too much I offered. Should not have that kind of thoughts. And if you have that thought, then whatever practice you did will not become a virtuous practice. And so those are the practice of generosity, practice of giving material things, whether you give it to the poor and the needy, or make offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. But if you have this thought of wanting to give one's one body, possession, and the matters of the 3 times, then it becomes practice of generosity, even without giving, actually giving.
And it does much convenience, does much to the Chuji Mass. Chuji Mass, you turn out down, come the much Chuji, what the Kajamaris, Chick, Tropo, Tomo, Path, Chick, Pet Chicken Mountain, that Chuji, got the tree, that Chuji Mado.
And then the third one is the practice of giving of the Dharma. And so when you give Dharma, it's not necessary for you to sit on a high throne and preach the Dharma to others. It's not necessary like that. Even if when you are discussing and you give this information, Dharma information to others, then that becomes giving of Dharma.
취지만 로마에서 봐. 지금 수수께 전에다. 수수치 년께 잡던 저기 지금 끝에 나한테 지금 말라고 있나? 아니 취지만 로마에서 봐.
And so, studying of a proper motivation is very important. So if you have proper motivation, even that simple, the act of sharing the Dharma information can become the practice of giving of Dharma. Otherwise, even if you sit on a high throne and preach, but if you have those wrong thoughts, thinking that if I sit up in the high throne and give teachings, then maybe people will think of me as very high teacher. They will respect me, they will praise me, and so forth. With that kind of wrong thoughts, then that doesn't become Dharma practice. Again, if they are not the right vessel to receive those teachings, then you should not teach. And if you do, then it becomes one of the Bodhisattva downfalls.
아니 뭐지바 잡지신 바자가 됐다 당길라비 맞지 다지 총사다 메시니다 제사지 뭐 소생지 가리 바나 이 둘이 다쏙 잡아잖아 아니 뭐지바 잡지신 바세
And then the practice of giving of protection or refuge is, like I said earlier, saving the life of any kind of beings, starting from the smallest of the insects and all the way up to the life of human beings and so forth.
야 대라야 지지 다 가르치 좀 받네 지 그래서 뭐대 동사와 나까지 뭐를 내가 뭐 지등이 지 산적이 때문에 내가 지게 되나요? 그러면서 속 잡에 매래서
And so again, when you're protecting somebody, or helping somebody to be free from the prison, and if that person is a serious criminal who can cause a lot of harm to the life of other beings, or to the teachings of Buddha, if he or she is released, then you should not release that kind of person.
But we don't have that power. Right? If you are loyal, maybe.
Yeah.
Anybody loyal? 어떤 되지? 아니 샴페인 좀 봤어야 돼. 다 semche tamche 대화도 된대지 로드나. 아니 샴페인 봤을 때 송샤죠.
And then the practice of giving of love, is wanting all sentient beings to be happy.
근데 생각나서 가디 딱 무슨 말이야요 와서 뭐만 참 많이 가시.
We do have that kind of mind all the time, right? Superficial at least, if it is not really a genuine one.
어떤지 가지 semche tamche 대화도 된대지 로드나. 아니 샴바스 다 된리로 대화나 아니 다 샴페인 봤을 로그스리. 요래서 와.
So if you have that intention, wanting all sentient beings to be happy, then that becomes the practice of giving of love.
어디지? 근데 다 짐바보치, 지자치, 짐베제섬, 아니 덴바 마트와 따위에 거네 다 냠치와나 아니 다 지들은 대비, 아니 발신자 다 잘하고
So if you see the giver, a person who's receiving or receiver, and the thing that you give, all these things, seeing all these things as empty of existing, truly or from their own side, then that becomes the trans-worldly practice of giving.
지들은 대비 파시로. 아니 바데다요 오마치 방송을 짐브라시자 레보 동을 지들 대비 바로 시작하지. 아니 짐바도 지자도. 짐바보치, 지자치 렘바보 tes는데 내가 맞아봐 답이 거네 냠네 제나 단 지들은 대비 바로 파시 냠네 레소서.
So that's what Chandrakirti says. If you practice these three, by seeing these three as empty of existence from their one side, and that becomes a trans-worldly fashion of generosity.
간제 맞지 짐베다 쪼라 다 차선나가 그거 그래서 아니 가데미 계시 있는 짐베 쪼 가르나 짐베 쪼데 차선나 바래서 말서.
And so, in the main practice of the generosity, then it is important to not be attached to the thing that you are giving. So you should not have attachment.
나도 라마 집에 나 여와서. 그래. 다 걸리다는 것도 그렇지. 저러 봐. 아주 빨리 들어. 레마라서 노쇼께서 대상에서 공부시고 말할까요? 리당 노쇼 대상에서 선제를 하고 간제 리당 노쇼께서 선제를 하라 가리 너가 있나요? 된 너가 노시게 딱 정리돼 봐줬네. 다 차선에 봤던한테 다 지금 다시 냠을 했어요. 나만 집에 넣었어요.
So it is said in the Guru Puja that if you give all your possessions, your body, you are married up to 3 times in a form that is needed, whatever thing they need, whatever things the sentient beings need. So you give these things from your side, and then that becomes your virtue, the virtue that you give becomes a thing that they want from their side. With that thought, if you give them, that becomes the practice of the profession of generosity. And so for practice of giving, it's not necessary to give. If you have that intention or thought wanting to give, then that becomes practice of generosity.
If you want to give, you don't have to enough to give. It doesn't have enough to are used. How can you give others? Manners, everything. But if you have this thought, they become practice of generosity. What today by that, and the academic gave you the soil that Sanjay took Jeto Karna Sony there is. And the Sony to Karna Shanjib Sendres. Shanjib Seng to Karna, and the Tajibina, the Paji to Yanares. Paji to Yana, that to Data Jibat to Chires, Moyes. Academic gives you the soil. Sanjay took the Tony. Tony to Karna and Shanjib Sendres. Shanjib Seng to Karna and the Shamba Nigeris. Tito Karna died. Paji to Yanares.
So the Kadamba Master said the main cause of achieving enlightenment are the two accumulations, the accumulation of knowledge and accumulation of wisdom. And the main cause of that is the bodhicitta, and the main cause of that is love and compassion, and the main cause of that is the practice of the six perfections.
Okay?
So you understand about the different types of generosities, right?
And then she make more cosmos.
You understand what is generosity, the entity of generosity.
And then Marazu Peda Muchira Kumangatana, Kumangati Shimbaras.
So for example, if you give $5 to somebody, is the $5 giving? Is the $5 the practice of generosity?
No.
They got it.
What is it? What is the $5?
The mind intending to give.
What is the $5?
Just material.
It's just a vehicle. It's just the material.
Yeah, that's right. So that's just a material, right?
Okay.
What is the actual generosity?
Louder.
The intention to give.
Yeah, the mind wishing to give. Yeah, the intention, whatever word you want to call it.
Okay. What they did to Noraya Mark,
So yeah, that's right. So you should not make mistake with that.
Zimbada Zimbedze Noraya Mark.
Should not mistake with the material of giving and the giving.
Okay. If you today will kill, next 2-3 weeks, second. It's our ignorance.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
Give us a test.
Oh boy.
Why? You scared?
No ignorance of me.
Oh, today that Tanika get the patient, the Paje, that Tilly, that you were was. Shaja Samba Suzu Lida, that Suzu Lea, don't give one. Tanga the Shurj Tangi put that, don't eat the yes. That was a Chabachi, that is all.
And so the Bodhisattvas, they are able to give you with their own bodies, so no need to say mention about the external material things, right? So anyway, giving, the thought to give anything that other people ask, is the practice of generosity.
And the Tayanchi, Sozochi, Namadachi, Sozochi, Tiga. Okay, Jimmy, never do Yapo, younger Sami, Sabat, long to connect.
And also, when you practice the generosity, you should practice without any expectation of the result of that practice. Thinking that, if I give, then I will be rich in the future, or things will be better for me in the future, and so forth. So, you should not give with that kind of thought.
If you don't have the thought, then definitely, if you give, the result come back. If you think about this, then they are not generosity. Well, that thing is correct. That thing you need that. Then you must consume magic, and the Shanshus may lead down to you. That should be touching. They are not just so. 되게 진변 되베티 소수 라벨 삼비 그런 던져 매와 진이 다시는 이보강 같은 것 같아 다 제대시지 발라네 제스로와
And so that's what it says in the text, right? The Bodhisattvas are able to give even their body, their own body, if someone were to ask them. Then what there is to mention about the material things. So giving without any expectation in return for a good result, and giving within that way is the practice of the Bodhisattvas.
Okay? Anyway, very important that just about you with conscious.
So the very important thing is that you should not have attachment to the things that you give.
After you give it, oh, how much I give. Oh, I don't have enough. If you think then you all generosity is gone. Okay, we stop here, then we have caution. But today I think maybe he doesn't send the questions.
Why? What happened? Forgot about it.
Didn't that question come in?
But it's okay. It's easy questions. Maybe
What's this?
it's a little bit.
It said for Sunday, but you also mentioned Wednesday.
Oh.
Is that not right?
No, those are, that's just a typo. Those are Sunday's questions.
Oh, okay.
You also bring the wrong one.
No, I brought... just an email. It's okay.
Okay, but not nervous. These are easy ones. Okay, but a little bit contact to last week's class. But it's a good. Okay, you know the different things. Otherwise, we don't know. Always we think, oh yeah. We don't know exactly the difference, right? Okay. If there are
Difference?
어머니.
그래도 방법으로
어머니.
방법.
A1 said it.
If there are difference between 3 jewels of refuge and the parts of the 3 scopes. Anybody understand?
You understood? Oh, is there a difference? Is there a difference between 3 jewels of refuge and the parts of the 3 scopes? Or 3 scopes part and 3 jewels?
Yes, no.
Yes.
Anybody say yes, right?
Yes. It's a different subject.
Huh?
Yeah.
Anybody say yes?
Yes.
If you say yes, then you are pass.
Okay.
If you say not, then you are not pass.
I don't know the question, but yes.
Okay?
Still passed them.
Anybody say yes, 100%? Now if someone give example,
What difference is there?
it can be said, someone say. If you say yes, this is when, this is past, but can someone give some examples? One pen. Okay.
I'll give it a
Yeah,
shot.
go ahead.
I think you're talking about 2 very different subject matter, right? You're talking about the 3 jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. You know, the doctor, the nurse, and the medicine, and the other one, the scopes, is the way people go about trying to practice religion. They're 2 different questions. That's how I look at it. That would be my swing at the bat.
What is that?
Okay, I'll try to say it again. There are 2. The way the question was structured, they're two very different things, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. You have the doctor, the nurse, and the medicine. So they're very different. It's different subject matter. And then the 3 scopes is about the way people go about trying to practice religion. So they're totally different things.
So are you saying there's no relationship?
There's a relationship for sure. I mean, I can see that there's a relationship. I don't want us to go that far, but I think they're different subject matter. So they are different.
What is the relationship?
The relationship, again, my best swing at the bat would be looking at it from the way the people in the 3 scopes would apprehend the three jewels. Would be the relationship as far as, you know, someone at the lower scope, you know, just trying to be free of cyclic existence to get a better piece of real estate in their next life. They're going to see the three jewels differently. That kind of thing.
Yeah. If any...
Does that pass or no?
Yeah, you explain to three scopes, three refuges, right?
그런 기부 숨기는 군주숨 징기어래서 그런 군주 대화도 들어서.
What means
Apprehend.
What means apprehend?
What do you mean by apprehend?
Apprehend, different people, depending on their scope, where they lie in this scope, they're going to be able to understand the three jewels differently. Someone who's just trying to get a better piece of real estate in their next life, forget about anybody else, or forget about breaking free of cyclic existence, is going to understand the three jewels differently.
That's the difference, I think, when you talk about the three jewel itself, and practice of taking refuge in the three jewels. You understand? Practice of taking refuge in the three jewels, and the three jewels itself. So it's the three jewels of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, right?
Right.
Taking refuge in the Buddha, and the Buddha is different.
Yes.
Taking refuge in the Dharma, and Dharma is different, right? So when you say practice of the small scope, it is the practice of taking refuge in the Dharma. It's not, that is not Dharma, right?
Correct.
He's saying you're using the wrong object of comparison.
Oh, okay.
He's saying you're not actually comparing the three scopes to the three jewels. You're comparing
With
the practice of taking refuge in the three jewels.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, actually that is pretty difficult.
I think there's a lot in Korea. There was many differences.
I mean, there can be many differences, but what Geshe said, he says, for example, if someone possesses any of the three jewels in their mental continuum, then they would have entered the path. So whereas if someone possesses any of the three stages of the path and of the three scopes in their mental continuum, it is not necessary for them to enter the path. So that's the difference he gave.
Not necessarily enter the path.
Okay.
What example?
Damchoe, can you say that one more time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
one more time.
If someone possesses any of the three jewels in their mental continuum,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a Buddha, of course, no need to say, right? If you are Sangha, then you have to be a Sangha, you have to be Arya being, right? Superior being. You have to have entered into the path and then have seen the emptiness directly. Then only when then you become a Sangha. And to have actual Dharma, in your mind, you have to have the true path or true cessation, right? So only when you have that, then you have the actual Dharma, right? And so this, when you talk about having that, and then you have to enter into the path. Without entering into the path, you cannot have any of those things.
So you can be entered into one of the paths, but you don't necessarily have to have those three things.
Those three,
in your
yeah,
mind.
that's right.
So you have to go on the path before you can have those three things.
That's right. Yeah, before you can't have without entering into the path. In order to have that, you have to enter into the
Yeah.
path.
Whichever scope you're on, you
Yeah,
have to have.
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, in the path here, again referring to the path of the three vehicles,
Okay.
not the path of the three scopes, but the path of the three vehicles. So either the hero's vehicle, so to the other's vehicle, or the Maha Bodhisattva vehicle. You have to have entered into one of those three vehicles' path,
Right.
not the path of the three scopes.
Okay.
And then he was saying that whereas if someone possesses any of the stages of the path of the three scopes, then in their mental continuum, it is not necessary to enter into the path. So if you are in the path of in the stages of the path of the small scope, then you don't have to enter into the path. As long as you are engaging in the practice, to free yourself from the suffering of the lower realms, then you have entered into the path of one of the three scopes, but not in the actual path of any of the three vehicles. So that's the difference.
Because there's no renunciation.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct?
Slowly.
It's driven?
Next question.
배나 깨줘서 배나 다 나도 거주시 마셔도 그때 죽은지도 계속 해주려고. 되니까 가다 길하더나 그냥 바람 타고 그래.
And so among the three jewels, like I said, Buddhas, of course, no need to mention then even the Dharma and Sangha, those are in order to have the Dharma and Sangha, you have to have not only have entered into the path, but you have reached the path of seeing, where you see the emptiness directly. Right?
So, everybody understand this?
Right? You understand that?
파벨랑 가디 토바이나 가다디 게데케 조다. 나디가 죽게 주셔야 맞아. 파벨랑.
So whenever you have entered into the Arya path, or the spirit path, the third path of accumulation, path of preparation, and path of seeing. So path of seeing is the Arya path, the spirit path. When you have entered that path, then you become the Sangha. And your realization, the true realization of the true path and true cessation, excuse me, true path and true cessation becomes the Dharma. So only when you have reached that path, then you achieve the Dharma jewel and the Sangha jewel.
그냥 게데케 조에는 밥에 가서 잡. 죽게 조에는 밥에 가서 여대에 잡세고 그러고.
And so if you are a Sangha jewel, then you are necessarily a spirit being. You have to be a spirit being in order to be a Sangha jewel. And in order for it to be a Dharma jewel, then it has to be a realization within the continuum of the Sangha jewel.
데려 다 좋아고서 좀 하고서. 대는 예주삼이 끼마우서 잘한다. 예주 랑주고 잘. 예주삼에서 잘하고. 예주삼 맞이를 잘하고.
So in order to be on the third path, you have to enter into the path. Without entering, you cannot be on the third path, the path of the spirit being. So in order to enter into the path, then you have to generate the renunciation. So you have to first generate the renunciation, then you enter into the path, and then once you enter into the path, then you move up to the third path, and that's when you become a spirit being.
And that third path is of the 5 paths of the Bodhisattva vehicle. Just to clarify.
Not necessarily. It can be the heroes or so to the others also.
It can also be the third path, either of those.
Any of the third paths.
Okay.
No. Any because if you 도마니가 간 도와이나 고산 바바 저거를 아니 고나데 게데케 조티지 람테 다 죽게 줘려왔어.
So that realization of the direct, the emptiness directly, realizing emptiness directly, that is the true cessation, and the true cessation is the Dharma, the actual Dharma. So whoever has that and becomes a Sangha, and that within the mind stream of that person, the Sangha is called the Dharma. So it doesn't have to be a Mahayana vehicle; it can be a hero's vehicle or Sotrivada's vehicle.
얘는 바바이나 게데케 조비 잡. 게데케 조는 바바이 잡스. 제자로 줬어.
And so if you are a spirit being, it doesn't matter which spirit being of which vehicle, heroes, Sotrivada's or Bodhisattva vehicle. If you are a spirit being, then you are Dharma, you are Sangha jewel. If you are Sangha jewel, then you have to be any of these spirit beings.
Are the distinctions between the paths the same in each vehicle? Like the mark that moves you from the path of accumulation to the path of preparation, is that the same distinction in all 3 vehicles?
The distinctions, you mean?
So when you've graduated from the path of accumulation to the path of preparation, whatever marks that distinction, is that the same in all 3 vehicles?
So the name is same, but there are difference in the quality, in the realizations. So like you can be on a path of accumulation of the hero's path of accumulation, of Sotrivada's path of accumulation of Bodhisattva. So what difference is there is that the same being in the path of accumulation, but if it is compared with bodhicitta, then it becomes a Mahayana path of accumulation. If not, then
No, sorry, that's not quite my question. Sorry. My question is, for instance, the path of seeing is when you've seen emptiness directly. Then you're on the path of seeing, correct? And so that's the same for all three vehicles. Whether you're practicing any of the three vehicles, when you've seen emptiness directly, that means you're on the path of seeing. So is it the same way for whatever distinguishes you as being on the path of accumulation? Is that the same in all three vehicles? Even though the qualities, the realizations are different, is that marker the same?
먼저 가서 그냥 저런 가서 먼저 돈이 또 벌어. 돈이 또 벌어. 돈이 던지고 또 벌어. 또 돈이 던지고 또 돈이 모아서 떨어지도 그랬더니 다 돌람 차고. 또 거기 저런 그 배나다 년도에 저런 다 대인 저런 통화 이상 찍어버렸어. So in terms of that realization of emptiness, it's the same. You realize the emptiness, so you meditate on emptiness, and then as you move up on the stages of the path of preparation, the 4 different levels of the path of preparation. When you at the end, in the last level, or before the last, on the 3rd level, you realize emptiness in the manner of meaning generality, and that may becomes more and more subtle. And then when you are about to realize emptiness directly, then you move to the 4th level. And then from there, the moment you realize emptiness directly, then you become, you move up. So that, of course, that level is same in all these 3 vehicles.
Okay, now everybody knows to when he be chukenjo the gendekejo kara, gendekejo no pabeji, da yudeji, gendekejo na, chukenjo no pabeji yudeji, gendekejo no pabai go wako so kange, pabai no namshi kodamida chawa desu yaro.
So superior being again, when we talk about the superior being or the Arya being, we're talking about someone who has entered into the path and have realized emptiness directly, right? So for that, you have to have entered into the path. And then Dharma jewel, is that realization of the true path and true cessation within the continuum of the superior being. So for this, you have to have entered into the path. Without entering into the path, you cannot have Dharma jewel or Sangha jewel, right?
Okay, now this clean is very, very clean.
A little bit more.
No?
Little more. Every time you talk about it, it becomes a little clearer.
다 사직해줘 가서 남 먹어지. 다 죽여줘, 걔네께줘 가라이나. 다 내주서도 다 자세자 다 도박 먹어지. 가서 밥하고 밥이지 이게 참새고 들어와.
So the Dharma and the Sangha, is the superior being. Superior being is the Sangha. Superior being is the Sangha. Arya being or superior being is the Sangha, and the realization of the true path and true cessation within the continuum of the superior being or the Arya being, is the Dharma. And so when we talk about the Dharma jewel and the Sangha jewel, you have to have entered into the path. So no need to mention about having generated the renunciation. Of course, you have to enter into the path. So without the renunciation, there's no way you can enter into the path. So when you have entered into the path, then it's necessary that you have had the realization of renunciation.
But this is difficult, everybody understand. Everybody close eye, the people say, oh, here's our Kutishwara, here's the Buddha Shakyamuni, the people doesn't know where. 근데 인자 다 줄라고서 대가는 저 근데 인자 다 깨워서 뭐 가라라 다 남아 쉬고 나와서 남 거로 쉬고 나와서.
But for any stages of the path of 3 scopes, you don't have to necessarily enter into the path, right?
남소배에 깨워서 뭐 가라는 니어라도 나서.
For instance, ourselves, we are in one of the stages of the path of the 3 scopes, right?
Which one would I think great scope. Anybody has think that we are not renunciation.
Renunciation. Which of the 3 scopes are we in? So individually you can say which scope's path. Part of which scope? The great scope or the medium the medium scope or the small scope? Which part of which scope would you say you are in? So whichever path of this course that you're in, you don't necessarily have to generate renunciation, right?
Yeah, not necessary. Okay? Not necessary you need to renunciation. If you 3 scopes. Therefore, where are you? I don't know.
I hope the medium scope, middle scope.
So whenever you're engaging, when you're engaging in the practice, and whatever practice that you do in the daytime or evening time, throughout the daytime, whatever practice you do, what is your motivation? With what intention do you do that practice?
Tradition written for all sanctioned beings.
Then you're in this great school.
Great school. It's the great school.
Right?
Yeah. And middle school.
Thank you, Uchimura.
This is a great scope.
But I have a question. I thought that if you were to get to beyond the medium scope, you had to have some sort of renunciation, like to renounce cyclic existence. That got you onto the medium scope and beyond. Whereas without the renunciation, you couldn't be on the path, and that could still be in the lower scope, saying, okay, I'm going to do this practice so that in my next life, I don't live in a bad neighborhood. You know, that kind of thing. No, I mean in simple terms. And that's not really, you know what I mean? That doesn't even feel like Dharma practice. That's just trying to be a good investor. You know what I'm saying? I mean, really, what is it? But so there has to be some kind of renunciation. Is my understanding wrong? So from the middle scope and beyond, there is renunciation.
No.
Oh no?
Not true renunciation, maybe, right?
Maybe not realization, right?
가르스나 딱 나도 남무스나마 저시간 잡았으나 그나 랑 소소 내송 동안에 지식 짜니 개와치기는 제가 중요했어. 다 대개소 동안에 다 코에 동안 타거든. 코에 동안에 지니 개와는 제가 중요했어. 다 심지 탐정에서 사대 고마 통도 그 생각이 개와치기는 제가 중요하다고 그러고.
So the difference between the 3 scopes, is the intention, right? When you say I'm engaging in this practice, in order to be free from the suffering of the lower realm. When I die from this life, and when I'm born, I don't want to be born in the lower realm. I don't want to be born in a place where there's a lot of suffering, especially the lower realms, right? So with that thought, then you engage in the practice, so that becomes the small scope practice. And then you say, oh, it is not good enough just to be free from the suffering of the lower realms. Even if you're born in the upper realm, there's still so much suffering. Like human beings, the demigods, the gods, they have a lot of sufferings, all sorts of sufferings. And so it is not good enough just to be free from the lower realm. I have to free myself from the entire cycle existence. So in order to be free from the entire cycle existence, I'm going to engage in this practice. So when you do that, when you engage with that practice, that becomes the practice of the medium scope. So that's not talking about renunciation at all now. And then it says, oh, it is not good enough for myself to be free from the entire cycle existence. And there are all these sentient beings who have been so kind to me, and I have to look after them also. I have to have them to be free from all the suffering. So in order to do that, I have to achieve enlightenment myself first. And so in order to do that, I'm going to engage in this practice. What do you do with that thought? To achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, then that becomes the practice of the great school.
Okay, so the idea of renouncing cyclic existence is not really accurate, the way I was thinking about it. Is that what you're saying?
So you don't need to have the realization of renunciation in order to engage in the practice of the medium scope. You don't have to have. But you can also have. You can have and you engage in the practice of the medium scope. But you can also engage in the practice of the medium scope without renunciation. Without of course you have to have that thought. Oh yeah, I want to be free from cycle existence. You have to have that thought, but that's not the real renunciation. You can call that artificial renunciation. That's not the genuine renunciation. You don't have to have genuine renunciation. So same with the great scope also. You don't have to have genuine bodhicitta in your mind. You can have sort of that thought, oh, I must achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient. That thought you can have, right? Like that.
Okay, thank you.
And so with that thought, on top of that thought, and if you have actual renunciation, then you have entered into the path. Not only just having, I must free myself from saga existence, but also a genuine renunciation, then you have entered into the path.
Okay, thank you.
So what would be the basic qualifications for entering any of the scopes? Would you have to have taken a refuge? Would you have to have come to teachings? Would a person who reads books, holy scriptures or books at home, and develops a desire to be helpful to other sentient beings, would they be part of the scope? Like, what is the official entrance into the scope? Do you have to, what do you need? What do you need to have experience to be part of the scope?
배자 로고 이래서 공부를 용거 개요 말들어 간지 만지 다 점프 거죠 나도 달라는데 그 남아서 가지고 점프 거고 있어 점프 요에 토니 아니 지금 소소가 냠내 가져와 돼 단다 뛰는 거 그럼 몰라서 뭐 되게 생겨나 아니 개요
So at the very least, you should have refuge, the practice of refuge, taking refuge in the three jewels, and believing that they have the power to protect you from the sufferings of the lower realms. So with that thought, with the thought wanting to be free from the suffering of the lower realm, and believing that three jewels have the power to protect you from those suffering, then you take refuge in the three jewels. So at least you have to have that thought, and then with that thought, then you on top of that, then you also have the thought wanting to be free from the intercycling sin, or to achieve enlightenment and so forth.
That's what I just wondered, because there are a lot of people in the world who have very wonderful practices without being Buddhists. They really want to help others, and they probably believe in reincarnation and other lives because of what they read. But because they haven't taken refuge, they aren't considered part of one of the scopes.
Yeah, so according to according to the three scopes of the Buddhism,
Right.
but you can be just in one of the three scopes. But if you're the Buddhism, then it has to be taking refuge in the three jewels, right?
That's the basic one.
Yeah.
오케이. 근데 답변은 가서 그거 기회 친구랑 같은 로비 그전에 와서 관계지 산지 탐면 사지 검토도 되게 지나서 쇼크는 게 좀 두고 그러서 나도 랑슈 매워서 저도 가시.
And so that is the great scope's intention, when you do with the thought, wanting to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, then that becomes the thought of the great scope, right?
No confused.
Slowly.
Okay, now this is that. That's what is. If there's a difference between the three vehicles and three scopes, yes, not.
Yes. Yes.
Anybody say yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a difference between the three vehicles and three scopes? Yes, no. Anybody say yes?
Yes.
We can go on to number 3.
That is never.
Okay, what's the difference? Anybody say yes? Right? Then what's the difference? Then
Well, we just did the realization of the question we were answering was the realization of the three jewels and the three scopes. But I think in our discussion we probably answered both.
I think so too.
very lot of talk in three scopes. Very we talk, right? Now you need what three scopes, what place they are, right? What place they are, three scopes, right?
So the border.
Border.
You don't understand the border? The last time we talked about, right?
Yeah. Oh,
The
yeah.
entry point.
Tell me border. Oh yeah, they tell me. I'm joking, okay? Now we know border, right? Three scopes. Anybody know? Three scopes, right?
Yeah, what they are.
Don't mistake, okay? You come to three vehicles, okay?
Yeah.
Now where is three? Tell us. What border the three vehicles?
So, in other words, we can say, how do you define whether you have entered into any of the three vehicles or not? To be in a vehicle, what do you have to do?
What do you want? If you become vehicle,
You develop genuine renunciation.
네, 이렇게 말해요.
right? Everybody follow this?
Yeah, that I agree.
You sure?
Well, that makes sense.
You sure?
Sarah is not quite satisfied.
I wasn't here last week.
Yeah, she wasn't, we weren't here.
Everybody agree with Dolores? No. Dolores, somebody said
Does that apply to all three of them or only to,
I'm hurt.
are we talking about each of the vehicles independently of each other? Or are we talking about just the
Any of the three
to get
vehicles.
on the ride?
Any of the three vehicles, yeah.
Okay.
If you have to go to maybe US border, you don't need to go Boston, just Chicago, maybe San Francisco, some other place, border there. You are the inside the US, right? Okay? Dolores, somebody doesn't agree with you.
I know, I'm crushed. My ego is crushed.
No, it's Dolores right. We check if you have renunciation or not. If you have renunciation, you are into the vehicle. If you are not, you don't have any renunciation, you are not in the vehicles. However you do.
So how do you know if you've developed, it's genuine renunciation, right? Again, I asked that question last week, do you have to become a monk or nun? And you said no.
No.
So genuine renunciation could be even in a layman's life, right?
Yeah.
So how would you know that you've developed that?
Maybe you have a little bit horn come here. Oh, maybe not.
How do you know?
If maybe you have a little bit stand up this.
Yeah.
If the hairs stand up, then maybe. 늘 알아서 인생 근데 타와 되니는 쉬나도 되는 게 올라스페나. 타와 되니로 마마 슈슈 깔이 잠고 인생 가리 넣고 깨댕으로 쉬어이나 다 민주 깨고 들어와.
So whenever you have a wish to be free from psychic existence throughout day and night, spontaneously,
Oh, that's right, 7.
I forget.
Oh, yeah, 724, right? That's one of them.
Same thing. You have your nephew. Lord, you have always you think about your nephew.
My grandchild.
Yeah, your grandchild.
Grandson, yes.
You don't need to always think about it, just take
It's just
automatically.
there automatically, yeah.
Or you have this kind of thought for
You're like her.
okay, or
free from psychic
free from stress sometimes.
samsara.
Okay?
Yeah, I got it, yeah.
Now everybody got it?
What, honey?
And you got it? Sarah, a little bit down? What you down?
No, he said that's true.
I'm missing pieces, so
Where?
everyone. Thank you.
So that's for all of the vehicles, but then if you say like for the highest vehicle, then it would be, you know, having the genuine bodhicitta at all times, 24 hours a day, without any, just it's there automatically, right? So then that would, so the renunciation is to kind of get onto those vehicles, but then once you're in the different ones, then it changes your motivation and those other realizations change, right?
Yes.
So there's other things that kind of pile on top of that renunciation.
So in the case of the Mahayana vehicle,
Yeah.
you generate the renunciation and bodhicitta at the same time.
Yeah.
So when you enter into the, when you generate that,
Yeah.
when you generate the bodhicitta,
Renunciation.
at the same time you generate the renunciation,
Right.
and then you enter into the Mahayana path. So even if you have generated renunciation, but you have not generated the bodhicitta, then you have not entered the Mahayana path. So the moment you generate the bodhicitta, then you have entered into the Mahayana path.
Is it possible to realize emptiness directly without genuine renunciation? No.
No.
Okay.
So you have to be on the third path. So you
You
can't be on the third path without entering the path.
Well, no. All three paths can realize emptiness directly because then they become Arya beings,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so you have to be enter into the first part, into the third path. So you can't be on the third path if you don't enter the path, right?
You don't have to be on the third path though.
in order to realize emptiness directly.
That. Sorry, I was thinking third vehicle. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
If you realize renunciation, realize it, can you lose it?
that's too bad. 쓰기였어요.
Yes, possible.
그러나 대화 침묵을 샤쳐서 중세 대한 양도를 대화 중간 침묵을 다 대화만 사람도 이거로. 처럼 리듬도 이거 말이지. 처럼 중간에 사이에서.
뭐, 예전 교회
내가
내는
이제
얘기하면
딱 이주라 반 냠도 이거 쓰기로 왔어. 그러나 샤쳐서 마다 냠에 이거는 이주 냠에 따지러 왔어.
Yeah, I don't know through the experience, but logically maybe there is, because when we talk about the path of accumulation of the Mahayana vehicle, then it is possible. It's possible to degenerate your bodhicitta. So you generate bodhicitta very strongly, and then because of some instance, and then it's it's not possible. No, I can't have it like this. It's not possible. When you think like that, then you degenerate your bodhicitta. And then you may fall into the lower vehicles. So there are some incidents like that in the Mahayana path, and so seeing that, maybe there is a possibility that you can also degenerate renunciation.
Okay. Now everybody understand different three vehicles, three scopes. Don't miss, okay? Next time I ask, then I say, okay. Three vehicles necessarily need to renunciation. Three scopes not necessarily need to renunciation, but they have worked out in
But they can have renunciation.
Okay? It is a little logic, but you can think a little bit understand more. Good, okay? But Sarah a little bit confused. It's okay. Maybe Devin, he can explain, go back to home. Okay? You can explain.
Maybe not.
You can give generosity dharma.
I'll try. I
Okay?
don't think she wants to hear it.
Okay, thank you everybody.
Any questions?
Oh, if
No,
you
that
got-
was that was
Finished.
4.
Oh, those only two?
Well, the way he asked them was, is there a difference?
Oh.
What is the difference? Was 1 and 2.
Okay, so that was 2 and 3.
No more confuse you guys. Okay, thank you everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Not more confused.
Page 8. The first and fourth verses in Tibetan.